What's up, guys? It's Chris from Hall and Bass TV here today, bringing you another video. Uh, so fishing been kind of slow this morning. I'm not able to bring you a fishing video, so I thought, hey, a lot of people are getting into kayaking now, especially the coronavirus going on. A lot of lakes are not allowing motor boats on the lakes, and they just want to get out and do stuff. And kayaking is a great way to get out of there. So I thought I would come in as a new kayaker myself. I don't consider myself experienced at any means. I've only been doing this about 2 years, but I thought maybe I might would come in, give you guys 5 tips that I think would help you out and would have greatly helped me out in the beginning had I known these tips. So first tip, first and foremost, is you have to buy the kayak for your specific need. Don't go buy the cheapest kayak you can find just because you don't know if you're going to like it or not. If you plan on doing some fishing, see if you can. I mean, I live in an area where I'm fortunate enough that I could have went and test drove or demoed some kayaks. But if you can find a place that has demo days, see if you can demo a kayak. Uh, if you can find a place where maybe your buddy's got a kayak that you can go try out for a day or so, just to make sure that that kayak is going to be what you want. The last thing you want to do is shell out you know money for an investment, whatever it be, whatever your budget be, whether it be $500, $1,000, $2,000 for a kayak, and then you realize, I don't like this kayak, I don't like fishing from this kayak. And so that would be my first and foremost. Do your research on kayaks. Find you the one that you think is going to best suit your needs. It's going to have the right weight capacity that you need. It's going to have uh, the deck space that you need or don't need. All of that stuff. Like, just do your research and make sure you pick the right kayak. Number two, I would say, is a good paddle. A lot of people buy kayaks and they'll come with a paddle, and that's great, but most of these kayak paddles that they come with are bottom line kayak paddles. They're heavy, they're bulky, and for the most part, people's first kayak is gonna be a paddle kayak. Personally, I still like the paddle kayak because even with a pedal drive system, if I want to get into some skinny water, I only need 6 inches to float my kayak. And so I think that having a good paddle, because you go out and you spend 2 or 3 hours out on the water paddling and your arms are tired, well, you still got to come back. So now you got to fight with sore arms, and or you go and buy a paddle that just is not long enough for you, uh, or anything of that nature, that you end up not enjoying kayak fishing or not enjoying kayaking in general, because you're constantly had to fight with your paddle. It's too heavy, it's too bulky, it's not long enough. General rule of thumb when buying a kayak paddle is you want to be able to stand on your feet, the kayak paddle down at your feet, arms stretched up, and your fingertips are just barely crest over the tip of the paddle. Now, the paddle length and everything else will change based off of how wide your kayak is, but that's a good starting point for a kayak. That would give you a good reference as to how to judge where you should start at with a kayak paddle. Number three, a PFD, a personal flotation device. Honestly, that should be number one, because that is the most important thing. As a kayaker, I run into a lot of kayakers all the time that say, oh, I can swim like a fish, I can swim like a fish, I'm not going to wear no PFD while I'm out on the boat or I'm out on the kayak. Well, I can swim like a fish too. I've been around water all my life, and it's just but you just never know with a kayak on how you're going to how the day is going to progress. Because I will tell you one thing about being, I primarily fish from a kayak. I fish lakes from a kayak. I just recently started fishing rivers from a kayak, but anything can happen. And if you're on a lake on a kayak, I'm telling you about the boaters, the bass boaters. I'm not knocking any bass boaters because I used to fish from a bass boat, but they are the world's worst. They will come by you within 20 to 30 yards of you full plane, will not care one bit that you're there. And I mean, just anything can happen. They can hit you, they can run you over, and so you can have a PFD, or you can say, well, I'll just put the PFD on if I ever tip over. Well, what if you don't get that situation to where you can tip over and grab your PFD? And I will add on to that too, is to spend the money up front to buy you a heads up PFD. And what I mean by that is one that is guaranteed that if you fall out, you will float on your back. A lot of kayaks, like if you're going to buy a set on top, they sell a lot of high back kayaks, PFDs, that will help so you can wear them on the water and they won't, rub against your seat, keep you pushed forward on your kayak, make you uncomfortable, but they're guaranteed a heads up float. So that means that you will float on your back and your head will be up out of the water, at least to where if you are knocked unconscious, you can still breathe and you're not sitting there guzzling, drinking the lake water. Because you're not going to drink all of that lake water, I can promise you that. No matter how big the body of water you're on, you're not going to drink it. Number 4, I would suggest, most kayaks nowadays when you buy them actually come with a little identification tag, to where it's a little sticker you put on your kayak somewhere, wherever it's convenient for you, and you just take a waterproof marker and you can write on there your name and your phone number. The reason for this, I say that this is important, is because so a lot of states, my state included, does not mandate that you register a kayak or any boat that is under that's under manpower, that's not under motor power. And so having that little identification sticker, if you are floating down a river, you're floating down a lake, you fall out of the kayak, you get washed ashore elsewhere, somebody down the lake, down the river finds your kayak, at least they got a way to say, to call the number on the tag and at least make sure that you're okay. Because the last thing you want is to be in a situation where you lose your kayak. You might not even be in it, you might be in a storm, and a storm might blow it out into the water. You might live on the water and the storm might blow it out into the water. It might wash up 4 or 5 miles away, depending on how big of the body of water you're on. And so at least then, if somebody finds it, if they have any good morals, they will at least call you and say, hey, I found your kayak. Which that also, if you will lead into my next point, if you are out by yourself, because I get it, I like to go out by myself too. I always make sure that my wife knows at least where I'm at, and she kind of knows a little bit about how long I plan on being there. It's, I primarily fish from my kayak, so depending on how the bite is how long I'm going to sit there. Some days if the bite is good, I miss my target time that I told her I'd be back home by 6-7 hours. Some days when it's bad, I'm back home 3 or 4 hours before I told her I'd be back home. But she always knows where I'm going. She knows, about what time I'm gonna come off the water. So if she hasn't heard from me by then, she can at least call me, text me, do something to make sure that you're all right. But that is my number 5 point. But going back to my number 4 point, if you lose a kayak, if it floats away in a storm, the wind picks it up, blows it out into the water, whatever the situation may be, you fall off of it, get washed up away from it. You do not want to be the person where somebody finds your kayak floating down a river, they don't find you, and they immediately go into panic mode because now they have a ghost kayak, and they don't know if you're still floating down a river. They don't know if, you know, maybe you flipped over and you was hung up under some rocks. I mean, at least have some form of identification on your kayak so that people can find you. And it would help in a theft too. I mean, these kayaks, they're, you know, most of them are fairly easy to, you know, if somebody really wanted one, they're fairly easy to steal. So at least if you have some form of identification on your kayak, you might have a buddy that you met out on the lake or the river or whatever, and you can say, hey man, somebody stole my kayak. And the guy, you know, he's like, oh well, or the girl or whoever says, oh, you know what, I seen a kayak that looked just like yours going down the river the other day, and blah blah blah, this and that. Or they might see somebody else on your kayak, and they can and you know, they can identify that that's your kayak, and that, and you know, I mean, in a lot of states, possession is 9/10 of the law. So if you don't have any proof that it's yours, then if somebody does steal it, then you're out that investment. Either way, those are my tips. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, please. And if you can, hit the subscribe button. Maybe drop a comment down below to let me know what would your tips be to tell a beginner kayaker. Either way, guys, this has been my video for today. I hope to have more uploads coming in the future. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all of you that do for me. And I will see you on the next one.